Okay, I got 5:30. We'll go ahead and begin. Call to order. Please rise. Pledge allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Did you take mine too? Maybe. I don't have it. Thank you. Okay, we're not out of sequence. We're not out of order. We've got some members that will be sworn back in tonight before we get started. So that'll be the first thing we're doing. It usually helps if I have one for myself because I'm going to be sworn in as well. So tonight we have myself, we have Dan, Robert, Jaden, and Alan Stark. So we'll rise and say the oath. This is the oath of public office and employees. Please raise your right hand. I solemnly swear and or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Kansas and faithfully discharge my duties with Leavenworth County, so help me God. Thank you, gentlemen. Before I call the roll, we have a new face up here, Mr. Dan Clemens. Our secretary is going to highlight you as well. Mr. Clemens is one of the Lansing City Council members and one of our volunteers to serve on our County Commission Planning and Zoning Committee, and I really appreciate your service and thank you for volunteering and applying to serve with us and make a positive difference in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. With that, let me do a roll call real quick. Stephen Rosenthal.
Here.
Jaden Bailey.
Here.
Alan Stork.
Here.
William Gustchalk.
Here.
Jeff Spink.
Here.
Doug Tysted.
Here.
Robert Owens.
Here.
Dan Clemens.
Here.
Marcus Major. Here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we got 9. Total vote will be 8 of 9. Okay. Do I have a motion to approval of minutes?
So moved.
I have a motion. I have a motion and a second. Any questions, discussion from the group on the approval of minutes? Okay. All right. I'll call roll. Steve Rosenthal.
Yes.
Jaden Bailey.
Yes.
Alan Stork.
Yes.
William Gustchalk.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Doug Tysted.
Yes.
Robert Owens.
Yes.
Dan Clemens.
Abstain.
All right. And Marcus. All right. 7 of 8. All right. Secretary's report.
All right. Good evening, Commissioners. Again, just want to extend a welcome to Mr. Clemens. Thank you for volunteering your time. On tonight's agenda, you will notice that there is no items on the consent agenda, so that is not on the agenda for you guys to approve. We do have 4 public hearings, 2 of which will be during the planning commission, and 2 of which will be convened when you open the Board of Zoning Appeals. There were 2 emails sent to our office regarding a case, actually 2 of the cases tonight, and those are before you. If you do not have a copy, please let us know. Otherwise, staff has no further information to convey.
Okay. Yeah, you forward these to us in our emails as well, please. So we've had an opportunity to read through these additional attachments, Amy. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Do I have any declarations to claim? Any declarations of the committee? Okay. None? All right. In that case, do I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
This is a regular agenda. Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. I got a motion and a second. I'll call roll. Stephen Rosenthal?
Yes.
Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
Alan Stork?
Yes.
William Gutschalk?
Yes.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
Doug Tysted?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Dan Clemens?
Yes.
And Marcus Major. 7 of 8 votes. All right. Approval of agenda is approved by a vote of 7 to 8. This time, we hear agenda item number 9 alpha. The Leavenworth County Plan and Zoning Commission will now consider case DEV 24-075, a rezoning request from RR5 to RR2.5 as outlined in the posted agenda. This requires a public hearing. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. We have a nice little clock up here. Please, I say this in each one, I'm a nice guy, but after 3 minutes, we can no longer hear you. Okay? We have to stop. So make your plans, those that you want to come up and do, you've got 3 minutes. Okay? And then the clock goes off, and we're all professional here to do that, so that way we can hear everybody here. The planning and staff will now give a staff report.
All right, good evening, gentlemen. The case before you now is case DEV 24-075. It is a rezoning request of the property located at 00000 Cantrell Road. The request is to rezone from RR5 to RR2.5. The County Road 1 corridor study identified this area as rural residential. The surrounding areas part of the study were identified in the future land use map as RR 2.5. The concept plan provided is a proposed 3-lot subdivision where Lot 3 has the existing outbuilding. Lots 1 and 2 would have a little over 5 acres and Lot 3 would have a little over 20 acres. The applicants need the rezone in order to meet the road frontage requirements for this zoning district. The staff reviewed the request based off the 7 golden factors, which are considered during a rezoning request. Analysis of those factors can be found in your staff report. Staff is supportive of the request due to the proximity of the RR 2.5 future land use zoning. The applicant is here to discuss their request further and to answer any questions you may have. With that being said, I am subject to any questions you may have.
Okay.
Can we, I'm confused, can we go back 2 slides, please? Okay, there you're showing it in a 2.5.
That's
Correct.
RR5, sir.
That's an RR5 area.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then show the next one, please. And that is mixed use?
No, so that is, when I was talking about the County Road 1 corridor study, they identified this area all as rural residential.
Which requires what size lot?
They just identified it as the rural residential, so it can be, you know, the R1, 43 all the way up to R5.
Okay. Thank you.
Now go to the next slide real quick. So this is a draft. This is purely a concept plan. This is not something that is in stone.
Not yet, no.
This is purely what you guys worked really hard with.
So if the zoning request were to be approved, this particular case would be, you'd be seeing it most likely next month or the following, because this is also a preliminary and final plot that they're proposing as well.
Okay.
So let me jump in here.
Yeah,
really quick,
please,
Chairman.
thanks.
Yeah. At this stage of the development process, a conceptual plan, as you know, is required. Now, this is a little more detailed plan than you typically see, and this is what they would propose if they were to be granted rezoning here tonight. This is at least their intention. So during the plating process, you will again see what you see before you tonight and have an opportunity to comment on the plating component. The idea to include this tonight is to show you what they're thinking from a density standpoint.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, upon opening this public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your full name and address at the podium when you begin to speak. This is necessary since this is a public hearing. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Would the applicant please come forward?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Austin Thompson, and I'm with Atlas Lane Consulting, the firm that prepared this plat here. We're located at 14500 Parallel Road, Unit R, Baser, Kansas, 66007. And I just want to chime in and say that, yes, the owner is planning to, if approved, this would be the split. And the purpose is to basically take this larger lot, put it into 3 to sell to different family members, so that multiple families can, or their multiple family members can come in and build. The reason that we had to do the rezoning request is, if you can kind of see on that lot, lot 1 and 2, they're the smaller lots there on the south. They are 2.1 feet short of the 300-foot minimum frontage. And so that's why we're asking for the rezone. Part of this County Road 1, from my understanding when I took a look at the plan, was this area was not part of the forceful rezone. Just to the west, I think there was a mixed-use property. This area was not part of that. It was part of the rural residential. And to the east, I think they showed on the map as well, that future use is also for RR 2.5. We do feel that it kind of goes with the neighborhood. The intention is still there. The lots are still over 5 acres. It's just the frontage that we're struggling to meet with. Thank you. I can answer any questions.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Did you
Questions?
think about going for a variance instead of rezone?
We did discuss with planning about a variance, and we felt that rezoning was probably the better option because you have to meet certain factors within that variance. And it felt that we were able to meet the 7 factors
factor.
better than the variance where we may not have met all of them.
The 5 criteria of a variance are substantially difficult to meet when you're creating the issue that you're asking a variance for. The first part of that criteria is the area unique? Is the condition unique? Well, if you are making the condition, it's hard to argue that it's a unique condition. So this is, from our perspective, a better avenue for them to get to where they want to be. And it's in general compliance with the comprehensive plan. As he said, it's outside of the hard block zoned area of County Road 1, and clearly the intention there was to leave that in some sort of rural residential use, of which 2.5 is in proximity to this particular property.
Does rezoning eliminate the need for a variance, or is that part of the rezoning?
Yeah, the rezoning would eliminate the need for a variance based on the road frontage requirements for 2.5 versus 5. So the rezone would address his concerns.
okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Thanks, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Austin, what was your last name?
Thompson.
Thompson. Okay, thank you. Okay, we will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in favor of the request. Okay? We will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition of the request. Is there any additional? Oh, I'm sorry.
My name is William Rudolph. I live at 21502 Cantrell Road, Linwood, Kansas. My house and land is the bottom right corner of that plat there. I am adamantly opposed to this change in the zoning. Was never informed about the change to the RR5 zoning from just regular agricultural zoning. I moved into this location 6 years ago, and there's meadows to the north, meadows to the west, and now you're going to put 2.5 acre lots. And there's nothing to say that once it's zoned at 2.5, everything won't be changed to 2.5 because there's more money there. I'm opposed to this because the increased traffic, the increased dust on the road, most likely an increase in crime due to the population. I'm guessing it's probably lead to an increase in taxes. It will negate my ability to shoot on my own land because it'll be too close now. I don't see any positive to this zoning. Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, William. Sir, your last name again?
Rudolph.
Rudolph. Thank you very much, sir. Should have worn my hearing aids. Can't hear. Any other individuals wish to speak in opposition of this request? Okay. Is there additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you, staff. Appreciate it. All right. The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Kansas law allows for a petition protesting the decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed within 14 calendar days after the date of the public hearing. Additional information of the filing of a protest petition can be obtained from the Office of Planning and Zoning. Are there questions, comments from the members of the commission?
What do we have? What's the zoning to the east of this?
The future of it is RR 2.5, sir.
2.5, that's what I thought. Okay.
That's the future land use.
Yeah.
Any other questions or discussions, concerns?
Can I
Go
ask
ahead,
one
Doug.
question
Go ahead,
before-
Doug.
From this, could I ask where Mr. Rudolph's property is? Is it number 4 or number 1?
It's number 4, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I can make his out in the purple. I can make that out. Okay. No other questions, comments from the commission? Okay. All right. Well, I'll entertain a motion on this request. The case number is DEV 24-075, a rezoning request from RR5 to RR 2.5 as outlined and as discussed here tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve case DEV-24-075 as presented by staff and in consideration of the Golden Factors.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion from the commission.
Well, I have another question as long as you're opening discussion.
Absolutely.
Lot number 2 on this map and 2.01, are those 2.5? Is that area across 214th? I think it's 214th Street. Is that currently zoned 2.5 or is it currently zoned 5?
It's currently zoned.
It's currently zoned RR5.
Okay, and so is Lot 2 and 2.01 both RR5? I mean, are they both 5 acres and meet the requirements of an RR5?
I would have to verify that real quick, sir, but
Okay, thank you.
So you're looking at on one side of the road is RR5 and on the other side of the road is 2.5 or?
Well, no, what I'm looking at is Mr. Rudolph said that he was in opposition to 2.5. If the plot across the street, number 2 on this particular map that we were looking at, if that's zoned RR5, But is 2.5 or whatever, I'm just trying to determine whether or not there's already the creep towards 2.5 that's in the county plan. That's all I'm trying to do, determine what those are.
There are a number of tracts, and specifically 2.1 here. I believe it's 2.9 acres. While it may have an existing zoning of R5, I can't tell you the history of that particular zoning district in that area. That tract does not meet the 5-acre requirement. The adjoining.
So in essence, we have, it appears that we're already starting to get smaller lots.
There are some lots that have an R5 designation that likely they're viable, but they probably were tracked long before that 5-acre zoning was put in place. So in other words, they're legal non-conforming lots, but they are certainly smaller than the 5-acre requirement.
Okay, thank you. That was.
Yeah, they were probably done years and years ago. Like the county commissioner said, for the longest time, there was no set. You have 1 acre next to 100 acres, next to a half acre, next to a 25 acre. And that's part of what we've got all over. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I have a motion and a second on the floor. And we've discussed any other discussions, any other good questions? Those were good questions, Doug. Okay, I'll call roll. Steve Rosenthal.
Yes.
Jaden Bailey.
Yes.
Alan Stewart.
Yes.
William Gutschalk.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Doug Tysted.
Yes.
Robert Owens.
Yes.
Dan Clemens.
Yes.
Marcus Major, I don't vote. All right. Vote carries 7-0. 8.
8-0.
4. Yeah, 8-0. All right. Got to learn to do my math before I get in here. Okay. Leavenworth County, we'll go to item Bravo on our agenda here. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEV 24-030. It's a special use permit for an event center for Nose Family Farm, as outlined in the posted agenda. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. How is it pronounced? Noise. All right, I like it. All right, thank you very much. So I'll read it again. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEV-24-030, special use permit for an event center for Noise Family Farm, as outlined in our posted agenda. It's a public comment portion, limited to 3 minutes. The planning staff report.
Good evening again. As stated, this is case DEV 24030, which is a special use permit request to operate an event center located at 21576 155th Street. This property currently has a single-family house and accessory structures on it. The Noise family would like to begin operating an event center out of an existing barn that was built in 1903. They have already made modifications to the inside of this structure to accommodate their requested business. As you can see in this site plan, that barn that we are talking about is the one located towards the center bottom of your screen. In addition to the barn, they have also upgraded some parking. They have some gravel parking that you can see there, but they also have additional parking for larger events, as you can see in the grass areas, for overflow parking. In regards to their parking, they do have 2 ADA compliant spaces to the north of the building. Both of them are van accessible because they have the extra space. The applicants are proposing to operate the event center both inside and outside events. After much discussion with the applicant, they are proposing to limit indoor events to 99 or less occupants, whereas outdoor events will have up to 150 occupants. They do have a kitchen inside this structure, but it is a warming kitchen. There is no stove or any major appliances except for refrigeration in this. They do have 2 bathrooms located inside to serve their guests. Outdoor events will be also located around the structure. They are proposing to add a patio along the southern portion of that structure to accommodate those outdoor events. Currently, employment is the 2 property owners. However, they do have on occasion temporary employees that would help serve the business as well as be there when events are taking place. They are not proposing to provide catering themselves. They are requiring their guests to provide catering to events. So all caterers must comply with all state and federal regulations in regard to that. The same is for bartending services. They're going to allow the use of alcohol on the property, but again, the bartending services will be sourced outside. Planning and Public Works and all other departments have reviewed this request. The applicant is going to expand their existing driveway to accommodate vehicular flow in and out of the existing driveway there to address some concerns about the width of that driveway. The applicant is also proposing to install a fire hydrant across the street from their entrance to accommodate emergency services in case there was a fire. It would allow for fire services to have access to water closer to the event center. They have also installed push-out bars on their doors to address some other fire safety concerns in the structure. There was some concern about the occupancy load. The applicant has agreed to limit, like I said, the indoor occupancy to 99 guests. They also will have agreed to make sure that the structure is compliant with the Kansas Fire Protection Plan, which includes the International Fire Code as adopted by the State Fire Marshal's Office. If you please go to the next slide. Staff has provided some proposed conditions that we recommend you use if you choose to approve this request. The 2 in red are amendments we have made to the conditions that were included in the staff report, addressing those 2 items I just stated about the occupancy and then compliance with the Kansas Fire Protection Plan. The applicant is here in attendance, as well as I believe their engineer for the project. The Fairmont Fire District is also in attendance if you have any questions from them. Otherwise, please let me know if you have questions for me.
Does the fire code include sprinklers?
Depending on the nature of the structure, the type of occupancy, and the size, it could. Based off the staff's understanding at this time, this structure would not be required to have fire sprinklers by our own code and potentially not by the fire code.
3-story.
It's 3-story, but they're only using the main floor for the purposes of the building. The second story and third story are going to be used for private use, so not open to the public.
But that doesn't mean people won't be there, right?
As I understand it, they are not going to allow anybody there for events to occupy the second or third story. It is purely for the use of the property owners.
Nobody for the events, but other people could be there.
And off hours?
Yeah, during the day.
Well, that's certainly possible, but the way occupant load is figured is based on the square footage of the particular floor that you're using. The engineer is here and he can speak to that, but the sprinkler criteria typically is limited to the 100-person occupant load, and this is being limited to underneath that 100-person occupant load, and it will be placed and enforceable within the assembly area that they're utilizing for the SUP. The SUP is strictly for the ground level and for the exterior concrete pad. The exterior elements have no exiting requirements because it's on the exterior. So the push bars and the amount of exits, the elements that they've already put into place, are there. One thing to keep in mind that Leavenworth County has exempted these types of structures from enforcement of our adoptive building code. That was part of Resolution 2020-39. So any agricultural building that existed prior to the adoption of that code was exempted specifically by local amendment when they adopted the building codes in 2020. So from a county perspective, it's exempted. From a fire district perspective, they want to make sure there's compliance with the Kansas Fire Protection Plan, which regardless of what we do here tonight, that doesn't circumvent the state fire marshal's authority to do whatever he wishes to do. But by limiting that occupant load to under 100, it disallows that sprinkler component.
So how do you get a fire hydrant whenever you want one for something like this? Is that, I mean, how does that?
They were in contact with the rural water district and worked with them to get one installed, or in the process of getting it installed.
So
That was at the recommendation, I believe, of the fire district.
Fairmont Fire. Okay.
So there was a number of conversations that happened between the fire district and the applicant. And again, you have representatives from both the applicant and the fire district here that can answer your questions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. I just didn't know how you go about and get one. You can put me down for one.
you asked nicely, and you have a well drawn out plan.
Big enough wallet.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, staff report. Okay, upon opening this public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your full name and address each time. Each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since this is a public hearing. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. The little timer will go off and start singing to you. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Does the applicant wish to speak?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Chris Storm, 5719 Westfield Drive. I am the applicant of Storm Engineering. With me tonight is Scott and Michelle Noyes, and they have a really neat event center that they're looking forward to sharing with the residents of Leavenworth County, Basehor, and the Kansas City area in general. We agree with the staff report and are supportive of the conditions of approval. And we're here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Hold up. You're here to answer any questions we may have? Come on, team. Let's have a lot of questions.
And to answer one of the questions you had, how do you get a fire hydrant? You show up and you talk to the Consolidated Water District with your checkbook.
Yeah.
I knew that was coming. Yeah, just like getting a water meter. Write a check.
So I'm assuming there's a 6-inch line right across the road, correct, sir? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that.
And the plan is so they already have a water meter for the residents. A new water meter will go for the event center. That'll be metered separately. When that meter goes in, my understanding is that is when the new fire hydrant will be installed on the west side of the road.
Okay.
Have we, I'm sorry, have they done the engineering assessment or the engineered septic tank, which is now a requirement?
So I am on the list of approved engineers for Leavenworth County, as that step is kind of get the SUP approved and then make sure that it has the capacity to handle the events that are proposed with that. But that has not happened at this time, but it will.
Okay, go.
It's part of the list of conditions that we've proposed here tonight. So verification.
And so we can approve without it having been done. You just won't license until it's completed.
That's correct.
If we approve and the Board of County Commissioners approve.
Right. The conditions have to be met for licensure.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any concern about cars exiting late at night? You're going to have a sheriff around or anything of that nature?
So one of the things that was done with this, and you can read through all the documents, was a site distance study of the roadway, and is there enough room to see oncoming cars? I'm going to say the best case scenario is at night because everybody has their headlights. You can see a car coming. So with that site study that was done and presented to the Public Works Department, there was no issues with sight distance from the entrance/exit of the event center, except for trees that had kind of overgrown, and Public Works has already been out there and trimmed up trees along there. They were out there within 24 hours, I believe.
Can you pull up the map again? Yeah, thanks.
Wrong map.
Yeah.
Wrong map. Next.
No.
Are you
talking about this one or second?
No, you had a
Oh, the second one.
you had a where it was located.
Property.
Yeah.
There
I thought
we
there was
go.
one before that one though. There was a map before that one. There we
Yeah.
go. There we go. Can you zoom in on that one? Yeah, I was thinking there was a neighborhood right there, Stone.
It's hard to zoom in on a PowerPoint.
Yeah. All right.
So the location of the existing entrance here is, I'm going to it's kind of the crest of the roadway, so there's low points to both
152.
directions, north and south, so you have pretty good sight distance from the entrance.
Hollingsworth Road.
Site triangles are part of the review process through engineering at the planning commission, or the Public Works level.
And that information is included in the staff report.
It is.
Since the agreement now is under 99 people occupancy inside the building, but still allowing 150 people on site, assuming that 50 will now remain outside in the concrete area, what does that do to the noise and light restrictions that we have in the conditions?
The applicant had indicated that they would try and maintain all equipment involving DJs and all that indoors to limit the noise level outdoor. However, we did place as our recommended conditions our typical 60 decibel at the property line limit on noise. As far as lighting, they did have some exterior lighting, but not anything that's shining on adjacent properties. And again, we did recommend you guys approval with conditions that it limits to 0-foot candles,
At the
net
property.
increase at the property line.
They're going to hear that nonstop.
So again, what you see in the conditions are in essence enforcement conditions. Should they not comply with those, well, then that is grounds for further action. So that's the intent behind a lot of the conditions that are placed on
Yeah, I
this.
just when we were saying 150 indoors, and that any music makers, DJs or bands or whatever would remain indoors. Now we're saying that up to a third of the attendees will be outside at all times.
Or they could be. They could be.
They can't be inside because
No,
then they violate the.
That's true, but not every event they're going to have is going to have 300 people. I mean, that's a
Well, I'm
maximum.
not saying 300 people. I'm saying 150.
150 outside on the exterior.
Oh, wait a minute.
You've got 100
You can
inside.
have-
You've got a max of 150 on the outside.
Yeah, total. So 150 is the max.
So you got 100 possible, or close to 100 possible on the inside, with 51 outside, potentially, with 150 max on the entire
On the
event.
entire. Okay, yeah, we're not 150 outside.
Yeah,
Plus 99
No.
inside.
No, it's 150 max, with a possible 99 on the inside, if it's at max capacity.
Is there a time limit on noise and whatever out
There is.
there? I mean, they're in the county, so is there a?
There's not an established noise ordinance, no.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But there is hours of operation that were included in the narrative.
Yeah.
So they will have to contain that within those hours of operation. And I believe, is that 10 o'clock? I can't remember.
It's
10
11
o'clock
on
week.
weekends,
Okay.
but we said all operations, so for that events center have to cease at midnight, so.
Right.
I'm sorry, would you say that again?
Events, they included in theirs till 11 on weekends, but we included included the extra note that business operations have to cease by midnight. So, unpacking, packing up after an event would have to end by midnight.
And that makes sense. I mean, if you got a 10-piece band out there and you got to close at 11, they're not going to be out there by 11:10. I mean, I think we can all understand that.
Having played in bands for about 20 years, I can promise you they likely won't break down that night. It would be during
yeah, exactly. It'd probably be the next day.
How close are the closest residents?
The closest residence would be the subdivision to the north. However, the existing building is up against the southern property line, so there is some extra space between the barn and where the residents are. There is existing landscaping buffering on both sides of this property. And again, one of the conditions that we state or recommend, if any landscaping is removed, they would have to obviously reinstall landscaping for those areas that it was taken down to help with noise and sight and stuff like that.
Well, and here's my next comment, and this for us. Seeing that the Board of County Commissioners has not approved our SUP guidelines that we went over here a few months ago on the tier staging of SUPs, this would, if granted today, this SUP would have an indefinite timeline of operation. So we keep that in mind, which, once again, 99% of our SUPs we have zero problems with. But you always have that one that sneaks in there and gets you. And if we get 20 complaints from the neighborhoods to the north about excessive noise or excessive cars, once again, we can't pull an SUP because we have no power again.
Is that true? Can't we put a limitation on it anyway?
You can make the recommendation of any timeline you like.
Yeah.
And the Board of County Commissioners can modify the timeline if they so choose, or they can accept it.
Correct. So we can make a motion. with
Yes,
a
we can make a
timeline
motion
on
to put a timeline on and
I
review
suggest
this in
we do
5 to 10 years, 5 years. I'm good with that. I just don't like the idea of giving unlimited SUPs in Leavenworth County anymore.
Thank you. No, that's a valid point. Let me ask you, I'm going to change subject on you real quick, okay? Not to come off of that, but to go along with this discussion. Have the neighbors on that Stone Ridge Drive, have they been informed of this business proposal and so forth? Are they all informed in that, or how does that work?
An SUP requires a 1,000-foot radius. So
Okay. Okay. All right. But those are really nice lots there.
And there's also a sign posted in front of the property too.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for the Scott and Michelle?
No,
Or
I'll,
any other questions on the?
Are there any other questions for?
No, I think we're good with you.
Thank you, sir. All right, let me go forward here. We'll now hear from those individuals present to wishing to speak in favor of the request. Those wishing to speak in favor of the request. Ms. Noyes, that's you, Ms. Noyes. No. You get to come up. You get to come up and tell us about this letter that you sent out to all your neighbors around there. Because that's a really nice neighborhood with really nice lots.
Thank you. We live on the property, and these are all the neighbors that we are friends with and that we enjoy, so we really don't want to have any difficult situations with any of them. One of the families that backs to our property, the Wald family, they're at 21417 155th Street. And, the other one is at the Young family at 15319 Stonewidge Drive. And they wrote, our property backs up to the Noyes family farm. When they bought their property, they invited neighbors from the surrounding area to an open house and shared with all of us about their dream to develop the barn into a small event center. Our grandson Ryan occasionally helps out with yard work for them, and we have attended a Christmas event and an Easter party at their barn. We know that they love hospitality and sharing the land and barn with others. We support their request for a special use permit to be able to make their dream come true and share their farm with others. They said if you had any additional questions, they didn't mail their letter in time, so last night they asked me if I would bring it with us. And we also-
Before you keep going, I forgot to ask you to state your full name and your address and then go.
Yes, my name is Michelle Noyes, and I live at 21576 155th Street.
Thank you.
Certainly. Another neighbor that lives across the street and owns the land that you see, I guess all the land that is right there where your arrow is and down, that's the Walden family. And they said, we've known our neighbors Scott and Michelle Noyes for 7 years. They're very considerate and respectful neighbors. We know that they have hosted a variety of charity events over the time that they've lived across the street from us, and we support their desire to use their barn as an event center. So I just wanted to share those two.
Thank you.
Any questions that anybody has?
Do we have any questions for Ms. Noyes?
No, but I would like to say thank you for bringing in your plan with your barn and your house and your driveways and the fire hydrant. That's what I like to see. The gives us a vision of what you're going to do, and yours is pretty finalized. I mean, we've got a pretty good idea of how you're going to set this up. We appreciate that. So
you're welcome. Chris Storm, my husband, and the fire marshal has been great, and we love it out here. We very much respect the land, and I just want to do simple things because we live there. We don't want the huge parties till whatever time. So anyway, I'll let the neighbors talk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're still on the individuals wishing to speak in favor of the request. Come on up, sir.
All right, my name is Austin Unruh. I live at 21402 155th Street. We're about a half mile south of where they live.
Number 17, is that about where you're talking about, where we got?
Yeah, 1601. Oh, no, 17, you're right.
17?
1601 is the other neighbors, yeah. So right across from our property, almost right straight west of us, there's an existing fire hydrant. So it won't be hard for them to tie into that line that's already there and put in another one. But anyway, I have my wife's approved quotes that I could read, but I'll submit that so somebody can read it. But I just want to say that the Noises allowed us to host our daughter's graduation party over there, and it is a really slick property that is going to add value and flexibility to our neighborhood. That they allow the neighbors to come over, and they've invited us over and to use that kind of to their space, and it's a great space. The events that they have already hosted, we've been aware of a couple of the events, and we have not heard or seen anything. The increased traffic has not been a burden. There is a larger development that's gone north of us that has increased the amount of traffic in our neighborhood a lot more than this will. So we're so happy that they're our neighbors and that we have this event where we can gather as a community. So, thank you.
Hang on a minute. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. You get to stand there for a minute. Do we have any questions?
I think.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Hello. My name is Elizabeth Reback. I live at 21462 155th Street. My husband and I are the nearest neighbors to the south of their property. I want to thank you for allowing me to speak in support of their family farm venue because we've been there. We've experienced some of the events that they've had for charity things, personal things that they've invited us to. And so I want to say they started out, like others have already said, by letting us know when they first bought the property, they invited us to a meet and greet. Come see what we've got, meet us, get to know us and what they plan to do with the property. And it was then that my husband first met Scott and Michelle, and then a short time after that, I met them. And we've quickly become very good friends with them. We've been in support of their project from the beginning. We continue to support it. They've done a lot to improve their property with the barn renovation, the home addition, and the entry gate, which only adds value to all of our surrounding properties. They fill a much-needed spot in Leavenworth County to have a place to gather and to celebrate those important life events like graduations or small weddings or showers or things like that, or even a celebration of life when a family's lost a loved one. We have participated in their events. We've helped them with setup, directing parking, and serving, but mostly we've been their guests and enjoyed their hospitality. Scott and Michelle have been very mindful of their neighbors, alerting us to an event and possible increase of traffic. And though it is nice to have forewarning, we've never experienced any kind of problems from their events, either by noise or traffic. So I am here to respectfully ask this commission to approve a special use permit for the Noyes Family Farm and allow them to continue to provide a wonderful venue for our Leavenworth County community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Don't go anywhere. I just got to ask. That was a very well-written note. And how much time did you spend on that?
About a half an hour.
Because it was very well done. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time to come up and do that, and take the time for your neighbors to make that well-written note. Thank you.
Any
Appreciate
other
it.
questions?
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Any others wishing to speak in favor of? My leg keeps cramping up. Okay. We'll now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition of this request.
Look at all them.
Lots. Is there any additional information from the staff?
Just to say, staff did review this on the 7 factors that you have to consider when looking at SUPs. We do recommend approval. I did want to point out that the future land use map is mixed use for this area, which would be commercial and residential, so we felt that it does comply with the future land use.
Thank you.
Can
Discussion?
we ask that the fire marshal or the assistant fire marshal come
We
up
can
and
do it
speak
now, or
to
we
us?
can do it when I ask the question, if there are any questions for the commission. We can do it either way.
Whatever
It doesn't
you
matter.
wish to do, Mr. Chairman.
All right. This public comment portion of the public hearing is now closed. Kansas law allows for a petition protesting the decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed within 14 calendar days after the date of the public hearing. Additional information on the filing of the protest petition can be obtained from the Office of Planning and Zoning at this time. Are there questions, comments from the members of the commission, please? Go ahead, sir.
Sir, I'd like to hear from the
Fairmont.
The Fairmont Fire District is represented. I'd like to hear what they have to say, please.
Hello, gentlemen. I'm Tyler Rathie. I'm an Assistant Fire Chief of Fairmont Township. We are in support of this on the condition that we listed in the factors there. As long as they meet the Kansas Fire Protection Plan, we are in support of this SUP.
And what do you mean by as long as they meet the Kansas Fire Protection standard?
The standard that's set by the State Fire Marshal. The State Fire Marshal has jurisdiction on this, and they set a standard through their office. And as long as they meet that standard, we are in support of it.
And that's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
Is we've got the Fairmont Fire District saying we're good.
Mm-hmm.
Has the State Fire Marshal weighed in or not?
They haven't had a chance to get out there and inspect it yet, but they are in the process of meeting with the family to determine what may or may not need to be done. So as long as they meet the recommendations of the State Fire Marshal and the Kansas Fire Protection Plan, we're happy with that.
Okay, so we still have to hear from the State Fire Marshal.
Correct.
John?
The State Fire Marshal will have jurisdiction, should it be approved or not. They will have jurisdiction over it. So the state fire marshal weighing in on something like this doesn't occur very often. On a new building, specifically for an event center, yes, you'll have that up front. That's a requirement because it would have to be built to the current code. If you build to the 06 on a new structure, then you are deemed to be compliant with the Kansas Fire Protection Plan. I think the intent is just to say that the individuals requesting the SUP maintain the building in compliance with the Kansas Fire Protection Plan, which would have to occur anyway because the fire marshal will have jurisdiction and enforcement authority there.
Okay. There was another comment or initial concern about equipment if you've maxed out the parking because you've got your 150 guests. There was a concern about equipment being able to enter and do what they need to do. Is that an issue or not?
That was addressed in the site plan early on in our meetings. There are open access aisles so that the equipment can have access around the outside of the structure itself. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the fire district agreed with those access aisles, and that was not part of their commentary.
Correct, yeah. Okay. The additional comment was about the gate, but the applicant
It's been widened.
has agreed to widen the gate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Sir, those are good questions. Yes, sir. Please.
I think it's a wonderful plan. I think it's a great idea and a great location. I am concerned about the building and it being 3 stories without a sprinkler system. Does it being 3 stories add anything into safety in a case of a fire being maybe starting on the top floor or one starting in the middle floor or on one starting in the bottom floor?
Well, like he said earlier, based on the occupancy, if they're only using that event space, then that is the only area that the fire code would be concerned with.
Okay. So I imagine there's going to be an alarm system of some sort required in case a fire starts in the top floor so that people on the bottom floor would be aware that there's a fire?
That is not a requirement that we have put in there. That would only be if the state fire marshal did an inspection and required that, which probably isn't likely.
This is an older building, and I imagine it's wood construction.
Typically, in older structures like this, and you have a limitation to a first floor and an occupant load over 100, horns and strobes and 24-hour monitoring are not a component of the requirements for construction. Typically, the driving force behind that is going to be the sprinkler requirement. You may have requirements for fire extinguishers, closer exits, obviously the push bars on the exits and exit width. But again, the limitation of the first floor, if this is approved, you're strictly allowing the first floor component to the building. Okay.
Well, I understand that, but that doesn't start electric fire starting in the.
It does, but let me refresh what I said earlier. There is an exemption that was approved as part of the building code requirements that exempts these buildings and these types of occupancies in that original resolution. So while I understand your life safety concerns, that's the reason that we forward them to the fire district to get their view on that.
That's why I'm asking.
Sure.
I'm asking him because to me it would be. I could see something pretty disastrous happening if a fire started up on the upper floor and nobody knows it's going on until it's too late. So
I understand.
Safety is the only thing I'm thinking about. So.
Yeah, and we agree, as long as it meets that protection plan, the components of that Kansas Fire Protection Plan will cover all of that, and as long as it meets that plan, we are in support of it.
So again, let me reiterate that the Kansas Fire Marshal will still have jurisdiction regardless of what happens here today. Yeah. And when they make their inspection, they will weigh all of the criteria that you just listed here and give remedial action if necessary, and if not, then they will allow it to operate.
That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. All good questions and concerns. Absolutely. Okay. Any other questions for our fire district? Thank you for your service, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the commissioner?
Chairman, I do have a question of the lawyer. Is and here again, and it goes to concern of safety for an old building. Is a $1 million insurance policy for the county sufficient for a building of this, or does it need to be higher?
Well, I guess you could always go higher because you could never adequately calculate what it's going to be, but I think about $1 million is around the standard for something like this. And there's also, you have your practical limits of what could happen, and then you have your statutory caps on different things in Kansas. So typically, we do see about $1 million on these certificates of insurance.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, if there's no more questions or comments from the commission, I'll entertain a motion on this request to consider case DEV-24-030, special use permit for an event center for Noyes Family Farm as outlined in our posted agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to propose that we table the decision on this particular hearing until the August 14th meeting to give adequate time for the State Fire Marshal to respond with any findings that he might have.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to table this until after the State Fire Marshal does an inspection. Do I have a second?
I'll second it just to get some discussion going. When was it that the county commissioners were going to decide on the special use thing? It was in August, wasn't it?
We had several study sessions. I'm assuming we're talking about the tiering component, the changes.
Changes in the...
Yeah, they reviewed it and they tabled it until 8th of September. So they have taken no action on it yet. They have heard it. They've taken no action.
That's too long. I thought it would be both of them would work.
Okay.
Is an inspection from the State Fire Marshal pending? Is that going to happen, or are we just waiting for something?
Well, again, I would not begin to be able to tell you when the State Fire Marshal would or if he will actually come out and take a look at the site. Again, that's outside my purview. Yeah. So I can't tell you the time frame for that. I can tell you that, again, regardless of what happens here, his jurisdiction is still there. So whenever that happens, if remedial action is necessary, he has the authority to require the remedial action.
Right. So we'll be tabling until eternity, potentially.
Well, my question, have they given you a timeline when they're going to come out and look at it? They just said, we'll get there when we get there.
We sent them the plan and heard nothing from them. The other challenge is we have a full-time person every single day. So we release a facility to somebody, but our wind full-time person is there the entire time. If there'd be a fire service, she would know.
She attended. No event is left without someone through the company there. I work all events. I'm on property walking. I greet every guest that comes in. I stand out at the parking lot, make sure parking goes good. So it's not like I know I've rented a venue where no one's there. They always make sure someone, which is me, I'm always there when someone's renting. If I'm not available, we book that weekend and say we're not available.
You speak really well, and I can hear you, and that's good. Come on up here to the mic while we got some questions for you, please. Just state your name and where you live.
Okay, my name's Chanley Walker, and I live at 1036 South 56th Street in Kansas City, Kansas. I grew up in Vassar. That's how I met the Noises. My family owns a business called Rough and Rigid out in Vassar, so I've met them. Wonderful people. I had my son's first birthday out there, and I was chatting with her as a teacher, an elementary 4th grade teacher.
I really want to stay at home with him. And she was like, oh, we really need someone, like, if you would help with events. So I work on the weekends so my son can stay at home with, or my husband can stay at home with my son. And so I'm on site every weekend that there's an event. And I meet with them before, talk about, their plans and what they're wanting in the event space. I always do the occupancy. We don't let over 100 people, 150 with outdoor. So I just kind of run it, and we always make sure someone's there so people are following the rules. They take really great pride and care in their property, and they want to make sure everyone's following that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to take the opportunity to follow up as well on why I was looking to have this tabled. Mr. Tyson, Mr. Rosenthal brought up some very good questions and some thoughts about safety factors that I think we all would say are important. I'd like to think also that after watching what our Board of County Commissioners have done recently with another event center, with how things were reviewed with the safety factors, including fire, that it might be advisable for us to take a pause to kind of let things percolate through. Give this a chance to see if they will respond. I think we've heard everything that we need to from the people in attendance here, that they're in favor of this. I see no issues with that part there, but I would like to see us take the time to let the fire marshal for the state of Kansas have a chance to chime in on this.
Okay. All right, but we just heard that the fire marshal may never come. So are we deciding we're making a decision to be in opposition of this because we're waiting on something that may never, ever occur?
No, we're just delaying the decision to give them a chance. Then we come back and we decide on August 14th.
My question, you're currently running it as an event center currently, aren't you? I mean, it sounds like you've been having events without...
We wanted to try and, first of all, we wanted to see if the neighbors were going to have problems with it. So St. Luke's Hospital asked us if we would do the annual heart transplant event. We went up and down the whole neighborhood, rang doorbells, gave them, just so you know. But yes, we have had several events that have been out there, primarily for our neighbors and friends, because we needed a dress rehearsal to see, can we do this? I'd like to leave corporate America and do this as something in my retirement, so that's part of why we bought the property. But we wanted to test it and say, do we even like doing this, and what are the type of issues? I would invite any and all of you to come and be able to tour the property, or on our website, you'd be able to see people that have been there. The upstairs, just to ask, to answer Mr. Rosenthal's question about it, it's not a whole third floor, so there's only half. We do lock it, so there is a staircase that goes up that is shut off to the public. And we have an office that's up there that my husband and I use, and so we don't let people go up to the third floor. Currently, we have 6 fire hydrant or fire extinguishers that are in there, and the smoke alarms and all that. This is our pride and joy, so we don't want anything to happen to this property. We try to take every safety measure that we can, including talking to the fire department from the whole time we did the renovations and the rebuild on the property. We asked for them to come over and give suggestions and tell us, because we wanted to make sure we did things right from the start. I think the hardest thing is just trying to do right by the state fire marshal or whoever, but if we can't get on the agenda, then we don't feel comfortable being able to fully be able to do the things that we'd like to do for the property. So, yes.
Did I understand you to say that it is fire smoke alarmed?
Yes.
On the second and third floor?
There are, yes.
So there is warning?
There is warning,
if a fire started up there.
Plus, we do not leave it. That's normally where Chanley will sit during an event. We have some windows that look down. We don't want anything really rowdy happening in our property. And so, yes, sir.
Does that meet with what you're looking
Well,
for?
I mean, that's one concern I have.
No, but it could be. I mean, right now, we don't have it hooked into a, the fire marshal was just asking if we have it hooked into like a security system. If that was something that would make you all feel more comfortable, I'll call them first thing in the morning and get that set up that way. So,
My name is Scott Noyes. I live at 21576 150th Street. The challenge is that if you read the criteria from the fire department, if you meet their criteria, you'll never see them. If you have a problem, you will. The only time I've heard them come out, or the fire marshal, the only time I've heard the fire marshal come out is if there's a problem. The burden of proof is on us to do what we said we're going to do. Have our building meet the guidelines. And if we don't, the fire marshal is going to come out and shut us down. So tabling this makes no sense to me. Because we're all adults, we know what we have to do. You and us combined. So it literally makes no sense to table this. You can either approve this or not, but the tabling, we'll never get them out here in time and fashion, I don't believe. But thank you.
Yes, sir.
We've heard that the third floor is locked up. You use it for an office, and nobody can get up there if they wanted to.
Correct.
What's on the second floor?
Well, basically the second and the third floor. So I like to do arts and crafts. And if you went to my third floor right now, you'd see quite a mess. I like to do things with silk flowers. So it's really more just kind of my work area. I'm president of a marketing agency in Kansas City. And so I do a lot for my clients. I like to do a lot at home. And so that area is more, if you all have women that either sew or do crafts, we're kind of messy. So up there, wrapping paper, silk flowers, that's what's up in that third floor. And the second floor is really where we have 2 desks and a bookshelf, and that's where Chanley and I will sit and talk while different people are having the event. So in that area, that's just really not open to the public at all, other than for Chanley when she's coming to help if we're having people over for something.
Is it like the third floor where it's locked up or nobody can get into it?
When you go up the staircase that we have, you can't get to even the second floor. There's just basically a staircase that leads to a door, and that's shut off so that people can't open the door, and we normally put a little cord around. We've had like a bridal shower, we've had a graduation party for our neighbors, that type of thing, just trying to see how did people move through their property, where would there be a problem, did any neighbors have an issue while people were on the property, how loud does it, all the things you're asking, because we live there. We also want to be respectful for all those around us. We don't want to have a problem.
Yeah, I understand. What I was trying to get to is the concern that somebody might get up there without your knowledge and cause a problem. And that's what I was addressing. So when you're having an event, everything's locked up on the second and third floor. There's no access.
That is correct.
Then you have smoke detectors, and you have these other safety protections that you've taken.
We do.
Thank you.
Yep. It's our pride and joy. We welcome all of you to come out anytime.
Thank you. I think she's addressed our concerns, hasn't she?
Yeah,
I think
I'll
so.
withdraw my second. I mean, I just
And
did
I
it to
will
get
withdraw
discussion going, so.
the recommendation for table.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. I just have to say, it's important to us, when we bought this property, we had this dream. It was 7 years ago. My husband's gone through a heart transplant and a kidney transplant and still trying to make my dream come true. So I just, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I would make a comment that from the packet that the staff put together, you guys put them through the ringer, rightfully so, to ensure that if we approve a special use permit, they're going to do it right. And it appears to me from all of the documentation that they've done it right. That they have gone out of their way to, I read about the 1,200-foot fire hydrant. Now we have one that's been agreed to come in across the street. It appears to me that the applicants have done the right thing for this, and that the planning staff has likewise done the right thing. So, I tend to agree with not tabling it. Let's make a decision and get it to the Board of County Commissioners, because they're the ultimate deciders.
Yes.
All right, so I had a motion and a second, and I've had both the second and the motion retrieved off the table. So now am I hearing you, Mr. Tyset, as a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I move that in the case of DEV 24-030, that the Planning Commission approve the special use permit based on the golden factors and the testimony here this evening, as well as the staff's recommendations.
Staff's recommendations and guidelines.
Just to clarify, the amended conditions we showed you today, correct?
That is correct, and the amended conditions.
Are you going to add a time limit that we talked about earlier?
I'm not in my motion, no. But it's obviously open to discussion.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor with no time limit, but a motion stated that meets all the golden factors to include the planning staff considerations and everything else we put in place. I have a second, but I had a good recommendation over here with a time limit. So are we not looking at a review of a special use permit, or is it indefinite? We agree that it's indefinite. Okay.
So in discussion, what would this fall under the future tiers? Just
Yeah, I believe it'd be tier 3, which would be a recommendation of 5 to 10, if I remember correctly.
Again, keep
Quite
in mind-
happy with that.
Keep in mind, those are simply recommendations from staff. They're not a mandated timeline.
Right.
You can make any recommendation you so choose. The Board of County Commissioners can modify or accept or extend
Or do
that
away with it.
at any time.
Well, the Board of County Commissioners can change this too. So
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
They can let them vote,
Yep.
as far as I'm concerned, but it's whatever you guys feel. Motion's on the floor without it, so.
Okay. Okay. All right. Is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Okay, I'll call roll. Mr. Rosenthal.
Yes.
Mr. Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
Mr. Guschalk.
Yes.
Mr. Spink.
Yes.
Mr. Tysted.
yes.
Mr. Owens.
Yes.
Mr. Clemens.
Yes.
Motion carries. Motion carries 8-0. Make sure I'm counting right. Okay. All right. I will entertain a motion at this time for adjournment.
So moved.
All right. I have a motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. All right, we are adjourned. We will now begin the Board of Zoning Appeals immediately following. We have one already volunteered to step out.
Oh, Steve.
Based on the fact that we had one spin missing tonight, we'll have only one county commissioner. Hey, best of luck to you guys. I'm sorry. Hey, let me just say, as chairman, there's a reason why we went through an hour discussing this. And the reason is it's about public safety. And we've got the Fairmont Fire Marshal, right? I mean, the Fairmont Fire District. And right now, those districts are small in number, and they're like mostly volunteers. It's what we're getting down to. Or I should say, they're not even volunteers anymore. Now we're down to few of active duty, and that's pretty much it. We don't even have volunteers anymore because people are looking for, look, if I got time to volunteer, I want to pay. So our job up here is not so much concerned about the event and your property, which is important. Our whole concern and why the discussion was so much about fire safety is about people's lives. That's really it. So I apologize for the hour, but the good news is you knew that these volunteers spent a great deal of time going through to ensure, did we check all the blocks before it goes to the county commissioners? And then I know the county commissioners are watching this hard and looking at us. Did we do all the right things that they're looking for us to do? So thank you very much. I apologize that it took a little longer, but our attention to detail is great in numbers. So, thank you.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
You're stuck.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm stuck. I wanted to leave, dang it. I've been on my feet for 7 hours today.
Oh my God,
And-
7? Only 7? Jeez, I don't
In
know.
this-
We've
yeah,
been on our feet for 7 before 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Let me cut your toes off and replant them in, and put about 12 screws and a couple pins in them.
Chairman, we still have one too many for the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I'm sorry. Wow. Yeah, Dan,
See, you made me choke and I lost an opportunity.
you got 4 years to earn to be able to step away, Dan.
I thought it was the first one up.
Man, they're slipping.
I'm telling you, Alan, normally you would own it. You're on it.
Rosenthal jumped ahead of me before the meeting started.
Yeah, he asked before it started.
Oh, he was on it, man. He was like, I'm checking it out. I'm looking.
And I didn't know about it, or I would have asked.
Oh, that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen. So,
Well, let's just.
yeah.
Get through
So
this
give me just a second here, guys.
We'll
gather our map.
Okay. You ready? You ready? Okay. All right. Board of Zoning Appeals will begin at this time. I'll call the roll. Please note Mr. Rosenthal is out. Mr. Bailey?
Here.
Alan Stewart?
Here.
William Gutschalk?
Yes, here.
Jeff Spink?
Here.
Doug Tysted?
Here.
And Robert Owens is out. Dan Clemens?
Here.
And myself. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 voting members. All right. We got a regular agenda. We jump right into it. Do I need to approve a regular agenda, or can we jump right in?
We can jump right in.
Thank you very much. Okay. Ma'am, did you have something you wanted to include to us, please?
I do. Thank you, Chairman. So just this is a little bit of a reminder we are going into the Board of Zoning Appeals, and John alluded to this earlier on. If you choose to vote to approve any of these variances, there's 5 factors that you have to find per statute, and John went into them. I mean, basically that they have to be, the condition is unique to the property, that it wasn't created by the property owner asking for the variance, that it's not going to adversely affect the rights of those around them, that it's not, that a strict application of the regulations would be a hardship to the property owner, that it's not going to adversely affect public health, safety, morals, or convenience of those, and that the variance would not oppose the general spirit of the zoning regulations. These factors, the staff does a very good job of setting them out in the staff reports that they have, but when you do a motion to approve it, if you so desire to do it, I'd appreciate it if you just note you're making a motion based on the findings set out in the staff report pertaining to the variance. So that's my little soapbox for here and everybody at home so that we know the process moving forward.
Thank you. I'm not sure your mic is on, but you spoke clearly loud enough for all of us to hear.
It's on.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Appreciate it. All right. All right. Okay. Case DEV-24-069, a variance, Feindeisen water well. Did I pronounce that right? Feindeisen? Feindeisen. Okay, thank you. I appreciate your patience. Feindeisen water well. Consideration of a variance request from Article 50, Section 20, Utility Requirements, Leavenworth County and Zoning and Subdivision Regulations, and Leavenworth County Sanitary Code, Chapter 5, Water Supply, Article 2, Section 1 of the following described property, Lot Number 3, Dakota Hills, a subdivision in Leavenworth County, Kansas, also known as 0000000 Dakota Drive. This is a public hearing required. Public comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Staff report?
All right, well, I will cut to the chase then. This is case DEV-24-069. As you mentioned, this is a request to be able to use a water well on properties that are less than 5 acres. That 5-acre requirement is both established in our zoning and subdivision regulations as well as our sanitary code. So in order for them to operate a water well on this property, you will first need to grant a variance. And in fact, there's going to be two requests, the exact same thing, but there are two parcels in which you guys will be considering your decision today. The property is owned by Kelly Malik and Margaret Herring. However, the applicant agent is Neil Feindenson. I think
Ben Dyson.
Ben Dyson. I'm so sorry. I said it wrong too. This property is an already platted lot. It was platted in 2006 as part of the Dakota Hill subdivision. Both lots, but specifically Lot 3, is 2.5 approximately acres in size. At the time of platting, it was noted that the water would have to access from a public water source, i.e. a water line that was in existence. Since that time, the rest of the area has built out. That water line was taken over by Leavenworth Waterworks, and it has been determined now that they want to develop on the site that there's not enough water capacity in that line to support not even one of the lots to be built on. So the applicant did obviously contact Waterworks. They provided a letter stating that to that effect, that there's just not the capacity to support new meters on these two parcels. So they are now requesting this variance before you guys. Staff did provide an analysis of those 5 factors. We just stated the facts of the case for you. We do not provide recommendations on variances, but if you do have any questions about that, please let us know.
Okay.
So they have no other choice.
There's no other option for them, which is why they're applying for the variance. They've been denied by the water company to connect to this main at any point in time. So their really only recourse is the variance process.
So are there any fire hydrants in the area run by the Leavenworth Water Works?
I am not aware of any at this time. We would have to contact them to get that information.
Judging from the main size, I don't see that as a remote possibility. I believe the main size is 1 inch, if I remember correctly.
So
it's county living right there.
Going back to Mr. Rosenthal's comment, I mean, we're getting to a 2.5 acre. How can we approve a variance if there's, I mean, how could we build on this land if there's no fire hydrants in the area?
Well, the hydrant requirement is regularly put off to down the road. Now, the hydrant issue, when they have the infrastructure available, hydrants would be installed by the water district at some point down the road. This occurs all the time on 2.5 acres. Again, this is an already platted area. This is strictly water supply. So with 2.5 acres, the reason they wanted the water supply is anything less than 5 has to, at some point in time, connect to the water main, with the assumption that you're going to have public improvements out there so that they can connect that. We can't mandate those public improvements. We simply say that you have to connect when they become available. Well, clearly, from the water district's perspective, that's never going to happen. So essentially, you have these lots with the inability to hook up to a potable water or a public water supply. So to develop the lots and protect their property values, the only thing they can do, or their property rights, the only recourse they have is this particular variance.
I would like to also add that they would have to maintain all setbacks from sources such as septic or any other contamination source on site. That they are not requesting a variance from that. So if they do get this variance and they build, they would still have to maintain those setback requirements.
And to just reiterate, this is an already platted area, not newly platted.
It was platted back in 2006.
Correct.
And we weren't here in 2006, but probably with the understanding that there would be public water at the time.
Probably.
I understand the line was in existence in 2006. I don't know who maintained that line at that time. So I believe the thought was that it would hook, those lots would hook into that line at some point, yes.
Right, not to speak too far out of school, but I believe this water line was acquired by the current owner somewhere after 2006. So the intention may have been in the original district to improve that line. Since that ownership has changed, the intent to improve that water line has changed with it.
So we would be approving, if with this variance, we would be approving the Leavenworth Water Works not doing their job.
I don't want to say that. What I'm saying is,
Well, I would.
Oh, that's within your purview, not mine. So what I would say is that if you do approve the variance, you're simply reducing the minimum requirement for a well to 2.5 acres from 5.
What's the requirement for the state of Kansas?
There is none.
There is none. There is none.
There is.
There's no minimum requirement
You can
for
have
a
a water
well.
well on a half acre.
If as far as the state of Kansas is
If we
concerned.
approve this, we're not doing anything really radical here.
Again, if this is a simple reduction in lot size for the purposes of a water well.
Why did Leavenworth County decide on 5 acre minimum?
Long before my tenure here, I don't know where that number came from. It's very typical, though. Typically, 5 acres is the minimum size in most counties for a water well, and the intention there is that you don't have contamination from septic tanks and farm fields, so that's the number that people generally pull from.
Right.
But we have approved a water well on 2.5 acres. This commission has.
Yeah, we did last year.
Yes. So
And again, the purposes of a variance is that there's a unique condition and that there's something specifically unique about the property, which is a purpose for a variance. And if the applicant can prove his case, then that this is the proper venue to address those items.
Yeah.
Any regulation is not absolute, which is why you have this body. So you can address those unique conditions and accommodate if you can.
Can we go to the picture that, topographical, where you see the trees? More. Now, I see 46, the next one's going to be 47. I see the tree line, about 3/4 of it's in trees. How much property do you have available for a house, sewer, and well?
There is a 100-foot separation between a septic tank and a well. That is the requirement. 100 feet between a septic tank and a well. That is the requirement. But again, they're not asking for a variance to that. That would meet our sanitary code.
Different agenda. Not even part of it.
So likely there will be some amount of grading that occurs there, and then the best site for the well would have to be picked, and then obviously you're going to have soils tests done to see where you best perk at, or you may end up with an engineered system. There's a number of different things that can happen there. But as it stands today, the applicant could not build unless he gets past this very first thing, which is water supply.
So I think I read where on the other side of the road, they have water.
A number of these, and you'll have it in your packet.
Yeah,
They're,
I could have sworn I read where they have water.
They do,
but
the
2-inch
these poor folks, they can't tap into the water because they're like, yeah, we're not going to service you. We're out of water.
Right. So
yeah, we're
these are
tapped out on that line.
These are the last two to develop, and there is no more room with no intention, as we understand it from the correspondence, there is no intention to upgrade the main for these two lots.
And that's real expensive to put a water line. It's real expensive to put water. So they're just like, yeah, y'all can just dig a well.
I'll tell you what.
That's a
They can
cheaper
put the
route to
well
go.
in- Put the well in cheaper than they can hook up to the water.
Right. What I'm saying is the Leavenworth Public Works, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
They're like, yeah, we'd just rather them dig a well.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess that's what I read. Something like that. Basically,
Well, then
when
why
they
did
said,
they take over, I wonder?
Do what?
I mean, if they're not going to expand, why did they take over? If they're not going to expand to serve
Service
the
the area.
community that they're serving, or not, as the case may be, then why didn't they leave it as just rural?
We're
Yeah,
somebody was drunk.
follow up to what you're just asking. I'm looking at a bunch of properties that go further west of that there that could be subdivided up and just continue this problem right on down the road.
Yes.
Correct. I mean, that's
Likely, if you have a large amount of subdivision, there's going to be a lot more lots to serve, which makes it more palatable for a jurisdiction to do improvements. But as it stands today, and again, this is a platted subdivision, these are the last 2 lots, that's a hard sell for the amount of money that's going to cost for a main, and that's not uncommon to see that be put off.
And we're, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. We're basically saying if water ever did come available and they wanted to tap in, they could, but right now they're ready to build and get on with their life, and they're stuck with no water. So we're basically telling them, dig a hole.
We're saying this is the avenue by which you may be able to accomplish that.
Yeah, I got it. Politically correct. Thanks, John. Thanks, John. I got you.
We're voting to allow them to exercise their personal property rights because they've kind of enforced
That's
it.
exactly.
Everything
Yeah.
else is hypothetical, so if we vote no, we're basically saying.
And you can't make a recommendation.
Your land down.
We cannot, but
and we're eliminating your rights.
But again, this is a prime example of what a variance should be
Yes.
heard.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a unique
Okay.
condition. While
Yeah.
I can't make the arguments for the applicant, I would
Yeah,
say
that's
it's
cool.
an excellent variance to bring before you.
Quick question. Finn Dyson's actually the owner of said properties.
He is the applicant agent. I believe he is interested in purchasing them from the current owners, but the owners are in agreement to this variance request.
He's acting as agent for the owners. Obviously, that's typically what happens until you get through the process, and then you would close on the property.
Did I hear you earlier that if water becomes available, they must connect to it?
No.
Or do they have
No.
a choice?
They have a choice.
They would have a choice.
Chances are they may if they're not getting good pressure out of a well, but if not, they spend all that money putting a well. Now, here's the thing. This is a cost to them.
Yes.
And it costs a lot more to dig that well and try to find water than it does when there's a guaranteed water line hooked up. I mean, they're taking a risk. That's the problem.
Are we to say you can't?
Right.
Anyone who puts a well in is taking
Big
a
risk.
substantial risk. Yes.
And it's expensive. And there's no like, well, now I want my money back. There's no water down there. You're not getting your money back. That equipment costs a lot of money to dig that hole in the ground and keep digging.
And there's no guarantee the well will produce water the whole
Nope.
time you live there.
Nope.
For how long, or if it gets contaminated.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a number of things.
But
that
that's
could
beyond
happen.
this discussion.
Yep. But okay. Upon opening this public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item, upon recognition, will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since this public hearing is being recorded. The public hearing portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
My name is Neil Findyson. I live at 16354 Dana Lane, Leavenworth, Kansas, 66048. We have basically my son and I decided we were going to buy lots together and build houses together. Came across these lots, looked into them. We did put contracts on them. We both have contracts on them, but it's contingent, obviously, on the water, because if you can't get water, we're not going to build a house. We've checked in with the city. Originally, the line, from my understanding, was a private line. All the people on that road chipped in to have that line put in. So that's why it exists. In the meantime, over the years, the Leavenworth Water Department has taken over ownership of that line. But, as my understanding, we went and talked to them, both of us did. It's too small of a line to add anybody to it. So pretty much they said, you're not going to get on that water line. No matter what you do, you're not getting on it. There is no rural water available anywhere around there. So our only option is to drill a well. So that's why we're here tonight to ask if we can drill a well.
Thank you, Neil. Appreciate it. Any questions for Neil? Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone, is there anyone out there wishing to speak in favor or opposition of this request? In favor or opposition of this request? Okay. Any additional information be provided?
Yes, I just wanted to remind you that there are 2 letters that should be before you about these 2 cases. So please read those and take them into consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. Did you guys have an opportunity to read through those letters? Everybody have a chance? Okay, good.
Yeah, I was
Thank you.
confused between the Leavenworth and the private lines, and they answered that.
Yeah. Okay. All right, no one wishing to speak in favor or opposition? Is there any, and we've already talked about the additional information. Thank you very much. This public comment portion is now closed. Are there questions, comments from the members of the commission?
Can we make a motion? Can we make a motion on both of them?
Well, I haven't read off the other one, but
They have to be separate actions, yes.
Yeah.
Good try.
But since you,
Nice try.
but since you teed up the motion, I'll go ahead and hear it, if you want to read it to me.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that in case DEV 24-069, the variance to the Finn-Dyson water well, that I make a motion that we approve the variance based upon the 5 factors presented as well as all other information presented by staff.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussion from the commission? Okay, I'll call roll. Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
William Gutschalk? Mr.
Yes.
Gutschalk? Mr. Spink?
Yes.
Mr. Tysted?
Yes.
Mr. Owens is not. Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
All right. Motion carries 6-0 in approval. The motion is carried by a vote of 6-0. Thank you. We'll go to the next agenda. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEV-24-070 variance request from Article 50, Section 20, utility requirements of the zoning and subdivision regulations and Leavenworth County Sanity Code. Chapter 5 is outlined in the posted agenda. This requires a public hearing. This planning staff will now give staff report.
All right, this is for the exact same request for a variance from the regulations we just spoke of, but it is for Lot 4, Dakota Hills. It is very similar in size, same conditions as Lot 3. Again, staff cannot recommend an approval, but we will ask that you also take the 2 letters that were placed in front of you.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Upon opening this public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item, upon recognition, please give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
How you doing? My name is Logan Findison. I live at 1408 Columbia Avenue.
Leavenworth, Kansas?
Yes, Leavenworth, Kansas.
All right.
Sorry.
Thank you. Anything you want to add or say? And
Exact same as him. I mean, we just want to build a house. I mean, we're going to, like they said before, we have to follow all of the sanitation codes on the sewer, but our only option is water. I mean, all of the neighbors, we've talked to most of them just going out there with our well driller that's already surveyed the property. And all of them were originally on wells, and they obviously got together and decided to get a private line. But there was originally 2 extra slots, but since the city took over, they're telling us no. They're already dropping down to like 20 PSI, so they're telling us there's no way that we would get on there, nor would we want to get on there with it. Sounds like they're already having issues, so wells are best option.
all right.
They told us it was going to be over $800,000 to do it, and they have no plans to do it in the future. I mean, they don't want to spend that much money for 2 people because apparently there are people out there are surviving on their water supply, but there's issues already. So
Okay, that's a good point.
Here that the
Good
people
point.
have low pressure.
In one of the letters, they noted that there's been some times where they've had to shut off the water to let somebody downstream to get water on that water line.
it's a 2-inch line, but they said there's a 1-inch connection closer to the city, so it's really bottlenecked down. It's smaller than they say it is. So there's quite a few issues with it.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor or opposition of this request? We've got the letters. We've read through them. Thank you very much, Amy. Yeah. Anybody? Okay, any additional information be presented? Okay. The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there questions or comments from members of the commission? All right. I'll entertain a motion on this request.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion in case DEV-24-070, variance in Finn Dyson water well. A motion to approve this variance based upon the 5 factors needed, as well as all the other information presented by staff.
Staff, okay.
I second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion on the floor from the commission? None? All right, let me call roll. Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschalk?
Yes.
Mr. Spink?
Yes.
Mr. Tysted?
Yes.
And Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
The motion is carried by a vote of 6-0. Approval of the variance. At this time, I propose we adjourn from the BSA. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. We are now adjourned. Y'all have a safe trip and a good evening. Thank you very much.